Hello everyone, this is Mr. Wolf, and we are continuing to read Fred Korematsu Speaks Up, written by Laura Atkins and Stan Yogi, illustrated by Yutaka Houlette, and published by Hayday Books. In the description below you can find a link where you can purchase your own copy of Fred Korematsu Speaks Up. For now, we are on to Chapter 6, Saying Yes. Jail becomes Fred's new home. He sleeps on a hard bed, trapped behind bars. Fred thinks that Ida must be worried. He didn't have a chance to talk to her when he got caught. One day a guard says, "You got a visitor." Fred is taken to a meeting room. A young man in a gray suit shakes Fred's hand and introduces himself as Ernest Bessick, a lawyer. "I would like to help you," he says. Fred can't afford a lawyer, but Ernest says he will not charge any money. He works for the American Civil Liberties Union and read about Fred in the newspapers. He hopes that Fred will fight the case against him, which will also mean challenging the imprisonment of all Japanese Americans as unconstitutional. Ernest tells Fred that the fight could take a long time, with little chance of winning because there is so much discrimination against people who look like Fred. Is he willing? Fred thinks about it. He doesn't want to go to the prison camp. But more than that, he knows that what the government is doing is not fair. He decides to fight. Fred says yes. "We'll fight it together," Ernest says, "all the way." Days later, Fred and Ernest go to the courthouse to appear before a judge. The judge says that Fred is accused of breaking the law by refusing to go to the prison camp. There will be an official legal case against him. If Fred can pay $2,500, more than the cost of 3 Pontiac cars, he can leave jail to wait for the next step in his case. Fred doesn't have that kind of money, but on the spot Ernest pays. Fred can't believe it. So much help from this man he barely knows. Fred sees that everyone in the United States does not support what the government is doing. Ernest and Fred walk out together, shoes click-clacking on the tile floors. They open the heavy courthouse doors into a blaze of sunlight. Fred feels free again. Then his eyes adjust to the brightness, and he sees military police officers waiting for him. They order Fred to get into their car and drive away. Allies in court and beyond. And we're going to start with our vocabulary words. Lawyer, a person who has been trained in the law and whose job it is to advise people in matters of law or speak on their behalf in court. Innocent, not guilty. Guilty, having broken the law as judged by the court. Ally, a person who acts in to support another person or group of people experiencing unfair treatment. Activist, a person who works to change something, whether it is an unfair law or unfair treatment of a person or group. Protest, to object through words or actions to what a person, an organization, or the government has said or done. And on the other page, appeal, to request a more powerful court to review a decision made by a less powerful court. Allies in court and beyond. Ernest Bessick was a lawyer who worked for the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, an organization that fights in court for people's rights. From its beginning in 1920, the ACLU has fought against discrimination. Ernest believed that it was wrong to put innocent Japanese Americans like Fred and his family in prison camps, and he wanted to help. He was an ally to Japanese Americans during a time when many other Americans feared or hated them. Ernest had been searching for a brave Japanese American who would fight the government's orders to report to prison camp. Through Fred's case, Ernest hoped to prove that locking up Japanese Americans violated their rights. When Ernest explained to Fred that the case could take a while, he meant that there could be many stages in the court process. If a judge ruled that Fred was guilty of disobeying the government, Fred could appeal the judge's decision. If necessary, Fred could appeal all the way to the United States Supreme Court. The judges on that court would make the final decision. An ally in camp. Ralph Lazo was of Mexican and Irish ancestry, and he had many Nisei friends at his Los Angeles high school. He thought it was wrong for the government to force Japanese Americans into prison camps. To support his friends and to protest their unfair treatment, he chose to live with them at the prison camp called Manzanar. In this picture, Ralph is on the right, shaking hands with one of his Nisei friends in a classroom at Manzanar. Ralph was an ally to Japanese Americans by remaining loyal to his friends and showing them that not everyone turned their backs on Japanese Americans. Other allies took care of Japanese Americans' families, farms, and businesses while they were imprisoned. It was brave to be an ally to Japanese Americans during this time. We have a question that you should be answering in the comments. Have you ever been an ally to someone who needed help? And back to the first page, we have a picture of Ernest Bessick. And the ACLU supported Mexican American students, like those pictured here, who were forced to attend segregated schools in the 1940s. Mexican American activists protested this segregation and won a court case that ended it in California and southwestern states. And finally, we have a timeline. 1920, ACLU was founded. 1942, early June, Fred meets Ernest Bessick. June 18th, Fred appears in court in San Francisco. 1947, Mexican American activists win their court case ending segregation of Mexican Americans in California and the Southwest. That is the end of Chapter 6. Once again, I encourage you to go into the description below and purchase your own copy of Fred Korematsu Speaks Up. Thank you so much for reading along with me.